We are watching Bryan Battle destroying his career in real time. Everything about his signing with the PFL, why it's the most stupid thing he could have done in this video. Hello and welcome to Bloodsport MMA.
Assalamu alaikum everyone.
Bryan Battle. I mean, Bryan Battle, I think he even won my Bloodsport MMA year-end award in 2024 for, I think, Fighter of the Year or something like that, because he had a crazy year. Where is it? 2023, 2024, he had the no contest against Angeluso that he clearly won. No, he didn't win Fight of the Year for me, but he had an amazing year where I think he won Breakthrough Fighter of the Year in 2024 for me. I mean, he was on a crazy streak there. He only lost to Rinat in the UFC. Rinat, who fights today, actually is on a crazy winning streak. He never lost in the UFC. I don't know if he ever lost in his career overall. But yeah, I mean, his record in the UFC is insanely good. He's on an insanely good run, beat great guys like Randy Rude Boy Brown, Kevin Chusset, all those guys. And he, as you probably know, got cut from the UFC because he continuously missed weight. First time he missed weight, I made a video about this already. Go watch the video. I think against Gabe Green, blah, blah, this and that. Then missed weight against Randy Brown, which was at welterweight. The UFC then was kind enough to say, hey, look, you missed weight twice at welterweight. It's time for you to move up to middleweight. He then moves up to middleweight. Scheduled bout against Nursultan Ruziboyev on a pay-per-view. Huge chance for him, right, to get into the middleweight division, get into the picture immediately. Misses weight at middleweight as well. There's just no excuse there, and great move by the UFC to cut him, just to kind of give the whole roster a sign like, hey, stop messing with us with the whole weight stuff. That's also why they cut the other guy, Keita, who just missed weight yesterday. And actually, they cut him at least, right? So he then gets cut. I made a video where I said what he should do. He did everything I said he should not do. He then went on to Dirty Boxing, fought like 1 week after the cancelled bout where he missed weight, 1 week after being cut. Went to Dirty Boxing. Hey, at the end of the day, he grabbed a quick paycheck, that's for sure. But it did nothing for him. No one said like, oh yeah, he proved he's the man. He fought Derek De Vries, 3-9 guy. I mean, how do you go from being a UFC fighter, from fighting Nursultan Ruziboyev, who's like a 34-5 record or something like that, to go and fight a 3-9 bus driver? Like, what are you doing, bro? On a lose, look at that. He won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Out of his last 9 fights, he's 1-8. Like, how is this even sanctioned? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And of course, he knocked him out in 56 seconds of round 1. I mean, he literally proved nothing. His stock went more down and it went up from this. Honestly. And now I thought, okay, maybe that was just a one-off and he now gets to the plan that I suggested for him, that I'll come to in a second. No, of course not. Bryan Battle keeps making stupid decisions. I really want to know who his manager is, because whoever is his manager, he does not wish good on you, bro. He just wants the money, I can guarantee you that, because he now signed, by the way, he collaborates with like 500,000 pages. That's his official Instagram page, by the way, yeah? Like, he collaborates with everyone on those posts. I mean, the social media manager also needs to get him a break. But he signed with the PFL, which is utterly stupid. Let me tell you why. You might think, yeah, but the PFL is the second biggest organization next to the UFC. I mean, isn't that great? No. I don't even know where I should start. First of all, yeah, he probably gets the biggest paycheck there out of all the options he has. 100%. That's why I said his manager just wants the money, or he and his manager are both stupid and just want the money and don't see the bigger picture. You have to see the future. You cannot just look at what's on your table right now and be like, okay, you have to, bro, you're not 23 anymore. You're fucking 30 years old and you turn 31 in a couple of days. You need to get back to the UFC ASAP if you ever want to get back to the UFC. Because the UFC will not sign you once you're 35 or something like that. You are good, but you're not a global superstar. You're 12-2 at 30. You need to get going, bro. At 31, better said. You need to get going. Fuck. And yeah, he signed with the PFL. And the funny thing is that I saw is, where is it? Here. Let's listen to this. Oh shit, sorry, I missed the sound.
Who do you feel like has the best stable of talent for you to really show that you deserve to get back into the UFC?
Can I pause this as well? Okay, the best stable of talent. Now, you could make an argument that the PFL, because they're the second biggest league, have the biggest names for Bryan Battle to fight outside of the UFC. You could make an argument for that. But
probably PFL. I think that's the easy answer, right? You know what I mean? PFL has some of the, especially since Bellator's gone, you know what I'm saying? PFL, I feel like it's got to be the best, you know what I mean? Especially one's been struggling. But I think the biggest thing is just stacked bodies. You know what I mean? Like, when people forget about other people's names, you know what I'm saying? They just see the record, they forget about the performances, they just see the record. So
what does it even mean? They forget about the performances, they just see the record. What are you talking about? What does that even to do with you signing with the PFL? Like, he clearly to me is not the smartest apple on the fruit table. I just made that one up. But yeah, I mean, what the hell? And the irony is, the question was, which organization do you think will get you back to the UFC the quickest? You think going to the organization that is the biggest rival of the UFC, that always tries to shit on the UFC, that the UFC does not like, brings you back to the UFC the quickest? I mean, let's look at it. Which fighter ever from the UFC who got cut signed with the PFL and got back to the UFC? First of all, there is a UFC curse with the PFL. Most fighters that get cut from the UFC that sign with the PFL, they lose most of their fights in the PFL, if not all of their fights. That's the first thing. Second thing is, other than Jeremy Stevens, who is a very special case because he went to the PFL, kind of retired in a way, and came back to bare knuckle, fought in bare knuckle, had some crazy performances there against Eddie Alvarez and all of that, and because of that got a one-off deal with the UFC that was unheard of for his hometown to fight there against Mason Jones, just to then be immediately released again and go back to bare knuckle. That was the only person that comes to my head. If I miss anyone, write in the comments, but I'm pretty sure I do not miss anyone, right? Everyone that signs with the PFL from the UFC, first of all, goes on a losing skid, and second of all, never gets back to the UFC. The UFC will not sign any PFL fighters unless they really have to, right? So you go to the organization that the only positive is they pay the most. Okay, perfect. They pay the most. Okay, that's the only positive. Negatives: you have the best talent pool. Okay, so you go up against the hardest competition, the way you formulated, right? The hardest competition. You know that if you lose a fight in the PFL, the UFC will never take you back. You think they take someone back that goes to the league number 2, loses a fight there? Hell no. They probably won't even take you back if you win 2 there. You know what I mean? You have to win a lot of fights over there for them to take you back. So the chances of you losing there are the biggest out of all the organizations. And the chances of them taking you back is the lowest of all the possible organizations, at least from the ones that I mentioned. I'll get to that in a second. So you sign the worst deal possible with an organization that can pay you well, yeah, but let's look at another big problem that the PFL has, that even opens up 10,000 new reasons why it's stupid for you if you want to go back to the UFC. Because hey, if you do never want to get back to the UFC, then of course the PFL is the best one because they can pay you the most, right? They can sustain you in a way. But still, the problem that I'm going to mention right now is still there even if you want to stay in the PFL. The problem with the PFL is, and I mean that point especially since he wants to get back to the UFC, and especially probably ASAP, right? As I said, 31. The PFL doesn't put on any events, bro. The PFL schedule is October 3rd, there's an event. I'm not sure if he can make that one. He should make that one because otherwise he's fucked anyways. October 3rd is the next event. That is probably filled already. I don't know if they can even put him there. Other than that, they have no, bro, 2025, there's no event announced for the whole rest of the year. Even if you go to their homepage, upcoming, there's nothing here yet. You know what I mean? There's nothing here yet. Like, there are literally no fights from the PFL announced for anywhere. And even if they announce one, they probably announce one more for this year or something like that. The PFL does not put on events. And if you've been following the PFL for a little bit, all the PFL champions are crying because they can't get fights. All the big names are crying because they can't get fights, because the PFL's business model does not work. They do not sell any tickets and they cannot sustain to pay you. And if they cannot sustain to pay you, what are they doing? They just don't let you fight. That's what they do with everyone. So if you're lucky, you're gonna get one, max 2 fights a year. Max. Look at all the talent that is signed to the PFL that has not fought in 1.5, 2 years because the PFL just won't offer them fights. They're crying on Twitter and the PFL just ignores them. And if they're lucky, they get released from the PFL. Because oftentimes they don't even release you. They're like, no, you stay here. You know what I mean? It's horrible. You're not gonna get any fights. You're not gonna get any fights. If you get fights, it will be against the toughest competition, right? If you lose them, you're immediately out of the UFC picture anyway, and the PFL won't care about you that much as well, right? The PFL will be like, okay, you just lost, your stock went down, F you know what I mean? Like, it's a lose, lose, lose. Of course, there's a world where he goes in there and, I don't know, gets a knockout October 3rd somehow, gets on the car, gets a knockout, and I don't know, in January there's another event, gets another knockout on the UFC, is like, we have to take him back, but that is pretty unrealistic, right? Just look at everyone that went to the PFL, how it went for them. Not really well. Anthony Pettis, who else went to the PFL? Jeremy Stiffis, as I said, who lost most of the fights. Shane Burgos. Shane Burgos is a similar case because Shane Burgos, the UFC even wanted him back. The UFC was even, the Dana was mad at his people for even letting Shane Burgos' contract run out. They wanted him back so bad. Now they don't care anymore because he lost most of his fights in the PFL. It just does not work well. I could name many, many, many other guys that went to the PFL from the UFC that never really won anymore, right? What I said, which would be the best option, is go to an organization on UFC Fight Pass. Best way would be LFA. You can also go to CFFC and all of that. Somewhere like that, win 1 or 2 fights, and you will be back in the UFC ASAP. It's not like you lost 5 fights in a row, you only missed weight. Only thing you have to do is gain their trust back. How do you gain their trust back more than fighting on an organization that is on their whole roster of organizations, that is on UFC Fight Pass, that is a good organization as well. LFA, for example, has great prospects there, and they sign a ton of people from there. The most people that UFC sign is from the UFC Fight Pass organization roster, right? They do not really sign people from the PFL ever. Pretty rarely. Sometimes from Octagon, KSW, because they're not really competitors. PFL, unless they really have to, they don't sign you from there. And if they sign you, they give you the worst contract ever. Look at LFA, for example. LFA has an event September 13. LFA event. Right, let's go down. Let's go down. LFA, September 27th. Bro, like, they have events all the freaking time. Who are you trying to fool here? You know what I mean? CFFC as well. Like, they have events all the freaking time that you could fight on and impress the UFC brass with 1 or 2 wins, be the champion at LFA, and then you're back in the UFC ASAP. It's that simple. That is the game plan, the one game plan that makes sense. If you want to go back to the UFC, which is what you should want to do, right? You're 31, bro. You turned 31 in a couple of days. You need to get going. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really get where his brain is at. What his thought process is behind those decisions. It just does not make any sense. But at the end of the day, hey, if you want to destroy your career, you do you, bro. I don't really care. I would love to see Bryan Battle back in the UFC because I really like the way he fights. I really think he's entertaining and phenomenal fighter, but sometimes people run into their own grave and you cannot really help them if they do not want to listen. What is your opinion about that whole thing? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? All of that. Write in the comments, you guys. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Would appreciate that a lot. This one click helps a lot. Another click is check the merch store, bloodshop.net. Link is in the bio. Freshest merch in the industry. Check it out, you guys. Stay bloody. Until the next one. Bye-bye. Bloodsport out.